Hi everybody and welcome. Now this was going to be a weathering video, but there's a lot of other things that needed to be done, and so what I've done, I've just sort of broke this down into a separate little bit of making the shutters and the doors and other bits and pieces like that. And I will do some apologising now. A couple of times some of the clips, the microphone decided to switch over to the camera mic, so you might get a variation in the actual volume. I do apologise about that. And also we did have quite a bit of the Royal Air Force dogfighting over the top of my house, so you may hear some jets in it. So all that aside, we'll go down to the bench and we'll get started with these shutters. Right, we're down on the bench. Now, what I actually want to make is some shutters. Now, these are the shutters that I want to make. I've already done a little bit of experimenting, excuse that. And they're the ones I'm quite happy with. And they're very quick and easy to make. Now, kick off with, I'm using part of the window frame. This one got broke off at the bottom, but it makes a good template. And what I've got here is a 1mm piece of balsa wood, and we're simply just going to use that as a template. Get that lined up, and just draw around the inside. Right, I should get that cut out and I should be back in a sec. Right, I've cut that piece. It fits nicely, as you can see, into my window opening, which I use as a template. Now I'm going to frame it up, and I've been going through my scrap box and I've come across enough of these to do all of my shutters. Now they're 1mm thick and they're 2mm wide, just strips. And what I'm going to do is very simply, because I need to make 6 of these up all together, is a little bit of glue across the top, and then I'm going to just put one piece, 2 pieces at the top, like so. Just make sure they're square to it. Yep. So just 2 pieces at the top and another piece at the bottom. Straightforward as that. Now I've got 6 of these all to do, so I'm going to leave this one to dry, and I'm going to get on and cut another 5 out of my board of that size and do exactly the same. I should do all 6 with just the 2 pieces at the top, 1 piece at the bottom. I'll leave them to dry and then I'll come back to you for the next stage. Okay, on to the next stage. Now I've done exactly the same 6 times, glued tops and bottoms on 5 of the pieces. Now this is nice and dry, so all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to trim that level, just using my side cutters, just to square it up. I think too OT. And also, you may have noticed I've drawn a centre line down. Now I've already pre-cut my uprights, which are going to go in here like this. So all I'm going to do now is get some glue. I'm just going to glue these up. So a little bit of glue, and then we're just going to put these uprights in. Just make sure we're square with the edge. That's one. Now the centre line, we want one either side, because we're making 2 shutters up at the same time. So just a bit of glue one side, and then in with another upright. Right, so I think you can get the principle there. Just making sure it's, I just eye everything through because I'm just used to doing things like that. So a bit of glue that side, bit of glue that side. Well, we might as well finish it. Now we've started it. And one in there, one in there. Now I'm going to pick it up and do it with my fingers. Just square that one up and just make sure the centre is square like that. Now we'll leave that to dry, and I'm going to do the rest of them exactly the same as that, and then I'll come back and we'll do just the two short ones that go across. Right, we're ready to put the little cross bits in. Now I've already cut my little bits because I've cut them for everything. Now if you wish, you can measure up, divide it into three, give yourself a pencil mark, and then glue them in. Me personally, I just put them in, eye them through, they look okay, that's good enough for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'll leave them two in because they're in the right position. I'll glue this side first, like so, and I will use that as my rough guide. Like so, turn it round, and then I'll take these two out. What did I do? It's there. Then I'll just glue them in, roughly in the right place, and we just fit them in. And then I just use my eye just to make sure everything is well, nice level, should I say. I trust my eyes more than I do a tape measure, because if it looks right, it is right, and I'm quite happy with that. Now I'm going to leave that to dry. Well, actually, I'm going to carry on with the rest. I'll get the rest of them done, and hopefully by the time I get to the end of that this one will be dry, and we can get on to the next bit. Right, I've prepped them all now, and what I'm going to do now is just turn this over and use my scalpel and just cut off the excess balsa wood at the top, because we put that extra piece on, just to round that edge off. Then just with a ruler, what we're going to do, we're going to cut this right in half now. So we put that down the centre with a Sharpie. Just cut that in half. So we've now got our two shutters, one for either side, and sanding stick, we'll just sand it all the way around. Nothing too mad, because I don't like mad things. And that will be our two shutters. Now I'm going to get on and get the rest of them done, and then we'll come back and we'll look at putting some hinges on. Okay, I've finished them all up and we're ready to do some hinges. The one thing I have done is on the back I've actually just used a ballpoint pen and put some lines down just to give it a plank effect. Now, hinges. What I'm going to be using is, I'll get my big hands out of the way, is some pieces of foil. Now this foil is off the fast food containers, and I've just cut them to roughly about 2mm wide. Nothing too amazing about that. Now when you cut these two in half, they're going to go opposite sides, because that one needs to go that way and that one needs to go that way. So we need to put the hinges on this side and this side, just so you can remember, that's all. Now all I'm going to do is drop a super glue, and we're going to go roughly about halfway into that panel, and the same there, halfway into that panel, and we're simply just going to stick, if I can do it, a piece of the foil on. Where are we? Tweezers. Like so. Another piece. There, like so. Now I'm just going to leave that to dry, and what I will do though before I leave it, I'm just going to run a bit of super glue over the top, because foil has got a tendency of coming loose with super glue for some strange reason. You just don't like it, so I'm just going to pull a bit over the top just to seal it all in. Now I'm going to do that with all of my shutters, and when I've done that I shall come back to you. Okay, now as you can see, I've been doing a lot of these hinges. Now the bits are just stuck on. It's very easy. We're just gonna snip them back like so to make our little hinge. I'm cutting them back about what, about 10 mil. You say that's about 10 mil? Well, give or take. It doesn't really matter if they're longer because they can be trimmed. Now that's my little hinge. That will hook just on the inside of the opening when I get it, like so. Now I've done it like that. The simple reason is that it's going to have some, well, it's going to have a bit of movement, so it can actually be moved out into sort of like the half open or fully open. It depends on what how bees wants to set them up. So I've done them like that, so he's got an option of having the shutters either opened or closed. Don't get me wrong, it wouldn't take much to snap them off because it's only foil, but to actually set them and glue them in place where you want them, it's going to be ideal. So next step is to get them all painted, and as you can see, I've been trying some different colours, and I keep coming back to this dark green. So I'm probably going to do them all in this dark green and give them a bit of a wash. So I'll be getting on with that. I will be painting them all, but the next thing I need to do, we need to make a front door. So I'll get tidied up here and sorted out, and I'll come back and we'll get started making a front door. Okay, before I get on with the door, I thought it would be rather rude, as the shutters are finished, not to get them fitted. And I've just given all the shutters a coat of, actually it is Luftwaffe camo green. That's what they got a coat of. The little tabs, I've just given a little coat of black paint just to make them, well, look like hinges. Now all I'm going to be doing is just a little tiny bit of super glue behind the back of each tab, and I'm just going to stick them in position like that. So I'm going to get on and get all them done, and we'll have a little look in a few seconds what it looks like. Okay, all the shutters have been fitted. I'm more than happy with them. They look pretty good actually, and I'm pleased I went for the green instead of white. I think the white would have been just a little bit too much. Not much more to say about them. They've just been set slightly away from the wall. It also leaves bees an opportunity of either closing them, pushing them back, or doing what he wants to them. But I'm more than happy with that. So we'll move on now. We'll get back down to the bench and we'll get the door made. Now we move on to making a door. Now it was a bit difficult to show you exactly what I did, for the simple reason was I had arms and fingers all over the place. Now, the first thing I did, I used one of my door openings as a template and drew around a piece of 1mm balsa wood, which then I placed behind the back of the frame that's already in the door, and then I drew around that again to get the actual shape and size of the door, which I've actually cut out. Now this will actually fit into my door opening, no problems at all. And I'm going to use this piece now as my base to actually make my door. Now I'm not going to go mega fancy because this door is going to be pushed right back. It's really not going to be visible because there's going to be a lot of figures in coming out of the door and down, so I'm not going to go too mad. Now, kick off with what I've done. I've got some of my 1mm planking. This is 1mm and it's cut 4mm wide, and I'm going to go through this operation fairly quickly, because if not, we're going to end up with a video with making doors and shutters and no weathering. So I've cut two pieces which I'm going to glue on either side. Right, I've glued them two pieces on, and with my side cutters I'm just going to turn that over and cut these off level, like so. Now that's given me the two runners. Then just with a sanding stick, just go along the edges and take off, not too much, but just a little bit, just to give that impression of a little rebate. Now I've already cut two pieces which I shall glue into place. Now I've cut one for the top, like so, and one for the bottom, which now I'm going to glue them in. Top and bottom glued in. Just quickly go round, sand it up, take all the edges off. Nothing too fantastic. And now we move on to doing the infill. Now all I've done is cut some of the 4mm plank. It's cut to size, and I'm just going to glue them pieces just inside there. Now I have used my sanding stick, taking the edges off just to make that little bit of a rebate. It will show up quite well when we put a wash on it. So I've got all mine cut. I'll get this glued in and then I'll be back. Okay, they're all glued in, and also what I've done is, if you can just see, I've just cut a small piece of balsa wood, bit of scrap. I just sanded it at a slight angle just to make the weather strip at the bottom of the door. You can use anything for that. So that's on. Now all I'm going to do is give this a good sand off, like so. I shall sand this down nice and flush, and then I shall give it a coat of my green paint. So I'll get that done and then we'll come back and we'll get the hinges fitted. Right, I've had a coat of green, and my apologies if you can hear jet fighters in the background. We have the Royal Air Force today practicing their dog fighting, and it's right over the top of our house, so I apologise for that, but we'll carry on. Now I've given that a coat of green, and I've just left this edge cleared so we can actually put some hinges on. Now we're going to do exactly the same as what we did with the shutters. I've cut some foil. This is at 4mm, and instead of putting 2 on, we're going to put 3 on. We're going to put one roughly at the top, roughly about 5mm from the bottom, and one bang in the middle, because they had 3 hinges on the doors. So we'll stick that one on first, like so. Right, I'm going to stick them on and leave them to dry, and I shall be back with you in a second. Okay, my little hinges have had time to dry, and all I'm going to do now is just trim these back. Like so. We will tidy them up a little bit better a bit later on. I'm just going to use, it's a 2mm piece of timber. I'm just using that as a gauge, and we'll just chop them back like so. Now, what I'm actually going to do with this, because the door is open, we're going to bend them hinges out this way in a L shape, like so, because we won't see much of the door, but we will actually see part of the door jamb. Now I will tidy these up a little bit more fettling, should I say. Let me take a bit of the door off. Battle damage already, like that. Now I'm going to leave that like that. I'm going to put a little bit of gold paint on them, give the door another coat, and then just touch them up with gold, and then I'll come back to you. Right, I've touched that back up with green paint along the edge. I've also used some AK True Metal. This is the brass, just to highlight the hinges. Now, all good doors need a handle. So, kick off with what I've got here. I've got some 0.3 styrene, and it's 1.5 wide. Now what I've done, I've cut two pieces at roughly 6mm. I say roughly because you never get them spot on. So first things first, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to glue one piece on this side and one piece on the other side, and then I'll be back. I fitted the two pieces of wire, one this side and one that side. As you can see, I've cut it back to about 4mm. And to me that looks about right. Now what I should do, I should just touch it in with a little bit of the brass, AK brass, I keep forgetting the name of it now, True Metal, sorry. I should just give that a little bit of that and get that finished off. What I also will do is I'm going to give it just a quick wash, just in the black, nothing else. Just give it a quick wash, and then we'll get on and we'll get it fitted. Okay, we're back at the door. Now, this is the position I'm roughly going to fit it in. It's not glued yet, it's just stood there. I would have showed you me gluing it in, but it's going to be rather difficult, this one is. So that's the position the door's going to go in, at the sort of, well, half open, should I say. We just turn that round just so you can get an idea. So the door's actually sitting into the room like that. Now I'm going to get that glued in, and then I should come back to you, because we actually need to run a door jamb all the way around the inside, which isn't going to be that difficult. Just a thin piece of balsa wood, just to make the door frame up and get it finished off. So I'm going to get that glued in, and I should be back in a second. Now the door's been positioned and glued in place, and what I've done now is I've used some 2mm by 1mm timber, and I've just run a door jamb all the way around the inside there. It isn't glued yet. I'm going to glue that in a very few seconds, and then I'm going to give it a little coat of brown paint just to blend it all in. I'm going to get that done, and then I'll come back to you. Right, I've given the door frame a coat of paint, just blended that in. That's ready for a bit of weathering now. You may have noticed as well, I've put a telephone cable in. This was just a bit of 0.6 wire, painted black. The little clip at the top here, a very good friend of mine, John Moore, he sent me some bits and pieces from telegraph poles, and that was one of them. So we've just put that in the top, and I've used a piece of rigging twine. I think that was 0.25 as the broken cable, which I'm just going to leave loose, so when Bees decides to do what he needs to do, he can actually position that all up. Now all this is done. it's all finished. What it needs now is weathering, which is going to be on the next video. So all I can say is thank you very much for sitting through and watching this, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.